Susan asked me to say a few words as the person here who knew Geoffrey the longest, my big brother, my protector, and my friend. I've been coming to Canada now since 1971, and there was never anything more comfortable and reassuring than arriving at the airport and being enveloped in a bear hug from Geoffrey. You just sort of knew that everything would be all right when Geoffrey was around. When he came back to England, it would take only the distance from the airport to home before he lost his Canadian accent and became English again. And he just returned really to being my big brother again. There's been a huge gap in so many people's lives since he left. And distance has never really mattered to how we felt. There was never distance between us, only short gaps between the times that we saw each other. As children, I was never of great interest to be honest. He was 5 years older than me. But he used to trail along to school performances and sports days to watch me play or perform in something. And I think he was quite proud sometimes of a skinny little brother that he could bash when Bernard, my other brother, used to bash him. And the only person who could deal with the three of us was my mother. And 5'2" was pushed between us when we were fighting, and she'd say, "Mind my bad arm." And of course she knew that we wouldn't risk hurting her. And Geoffrey was actually the biggest of the three of us, and only my mother could make him behave. He got into big trouble once. He chased me in the park, and I was about 7, and I fell over and broke my arm. He was always getting in trouble, to be honest. He was a middle son, and he was a typical middle child.
Easy. I'm sitting right here.
Oh, there he is.
You're a lot like him, Mother. I remember an enormous sense of pride when he asked me to go with him once, when he and a friend of his had a date with 2 French girls when they were about 16. But they couldn't speak French. And he knew I had a little smattering of school French, so the little I knew from my French lessons at school was the only way they could communicate with him. This was an unmissable opportunity for some mischief. And I don't remember the day going very well, so I either deliberately or accidentally mistranslated most of what was said, and I was never asked again. But Geoffrey was a free spirit. He was an adventurer and a risk taker. He would leave the house on a Friday sometimes. We might not see him till Sunday. He'd get invited to a party, or he'd go to the coast with his friends on impulse. And he'd return happy and always surprised that my mother hadn't slept since he left, and had worried herself sick until he came home. He didn't really settle on a career in England, although not everybody would know that he was a talented diamond setter and mounter and jewellery manufacturer after he left school at 15. But he needed to be out meeting people, seeing the world and having a career where he could use the buying and selling skills that he learned from my father. He used to do the markets there in the same way as he did them here when he first came. And I remember he used to take me as a young lad with him, which I loved to go with him. It was just such fun to be out with. And he'd set out the stall, and he'd tell me to wait for a customer to come by and then say, "Daddy, I'm hungry." "I know, son," he'd say, looking at the customer pointedly. "As soon as we take some money, we can go and buy some breakfast." I clearly remember the day he took me to meet Susan in the clothes shop where she worked in Hampstead, and I met this flame-haired goddess. Who has become such a large part of our lives.
Yes.
He found the perfect partner and a counterbalance to his huge personality. I know a lot of you didn't know him, but had you known him, you would know his kindness, his care for others, and if you were his friend, you would always feel that you were the most important person in his life. Some of you might have read my book here, which you're very welcome to have a look at. Tell you a lot more about him and his life in Canada. But coming here was everything he wanted in life. His wife, his children, and Naomi at the time were his passion, and I just wish that his other grandchildren had known him. There are lots of photos of him in the book, and you're welcome to look at it. There is also a special memory book, I don't know if it's here, that my daughter Lucy's given Susan this weekend, and you might like to look at that as well. But there are two things missing from today. One is Bernard, my other brother, who I miss every day, and the other is Jeffrey. Nothing would have given him more pleasure than to celebrate today with his family and his friends. So let's raise a glass to him and just celebrate the best man that I ever knew. Thank you. Jeffrey. Thank you.